What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is a video review of the Shellington Flypoint. This mechanical masterpiece is a flywheel-powered pistol that uses a magazine and shells, and it ejects shells. Yeah, bros. This thing is such a blast to use. It's mechanically similar to how an actual firearm chambers rounds. It's ridiculous. Will it help you win a Nerf war? Probably not, but it will make you feel like John Wick when you're running around your house shooting at imaginary targets. Super cool blaster. Let's get into it. So this blaster was made by the same guy that made that tactical shotgun I reviewed a while back. If it looks similar, it's because it was 3D printed using the same colors as my shotgun. So they totally match, which looks awesome. This blaster, just like the shotgun, is almost entirely 3D printed. This is not injection molded plastic, it's all 3D printed. That being said, it's very smooth 3D printing. So on to the quick external overview so you can tell what's going on here. Up front, there is no in-strike barrel lug. This is not a Nerf brand blaster. Up top, we have a Picatinny style tactical rail. And down below, we have the battery area. This runs on a LiPo battery, but it uses a 2S LiPo and it's wired up to an XD60 connector. My sample unit came with an XD30 adapter plugged into the XD60, so either battery type will work. And the seller has a few recommended LiPo packs, which I would recommend you use because it's a very small battery compartment. It is a pistol after all. So using the recommended battery will ensure the battery fits. But because it's so tight, once the battery's in there, it doesn't shake around or wobble. Moving back, right here is the magazine release. To get the mag out, you hit this forward, and it drops right out. It's a really weird place to put a mag release on a pistol, but after you reload a couple times, you can get kind of used to it. That brings us to the magazine. There are two magazine sizes available, 7 rounds and 10 rounds. The 10 round mag sticks out of the handle like considerably though, so if you're buying this for cosmetic reasons, choose the 7 round mag. It looks way cooler, because that's what it's all about with a product like this, looking cool. But this blaster features shells. You must use the shells in order to feed. You can't just feed in darts. So the loading process is kind of complicated. You get a half-length dart. It is not compatible with full-length elite darts, and you push the dart into the shell, then you put the shell into the mag, like that. The short magazine holds 7 rounds. Once that's loaded up, you put the mag right back in. Now, a loaded magazine is inserted, but you have to chamber around. To do that, you push this little unlock button, which allows you to pull back the slide, and then let go. As you can see, it ejects the shells. It just throws them all over the place. This blaster is so cool to use. Now I have a loaded shell in the chamber ready to fire. So to fire, you pull on the trigger. There's no rev trigger, even though this is a flywheel-powered blaster. The trigger does a bunch of operations. It activates the rev trigger, it ejects a dart, and then it ejects the shell out of the blaster, like this. The trigger pull is considerably heavier than a normal flywheel trigger, and that's because of the complex mechanics that's responsible for ejecting the shell. It's not like a Strife when you're just injecting a dart into the flywheel. You're doing a lot more mechanically. And when you fire the last round in the magazine, the slide actually locks to the rear, just like when you're using a pistol. I'm gonna keep saying like a firearm because it's mechanically very similar to how a firearm ejects shells. Obviously it's a toy, it's not a firearm, but it's really cool how mechanically similar it is. Anyways, when your slide is locked to the rear and you want to push it forward, you hit the slide drop right here, which again is actually similar to how a pistol slide drop is oriented. And that's the entire firing cycle, how it all works. The ergonomics of actually using the blaster are a little bit weird because it doesn't work at all like any Nerf blaster I've ever used. If you've ever shot a pistol, you'll actually know how to figure this out on your own. If you haven't though, it is a little complicated. You'll want to run through a few mags to understand how it all works. The weirdest thing about it as a foam flinging pistol is how heavy the trigger pull is. It's a really big trigger to get 2 fingers on there, and you really do sort of need 2 fingers. If you just use one, it's way too much force and it gets kind of exhausting. And when I tried to use one finger, I wasn't pulling it correctly and I actually caused a few jams. When using 2 fingers and using all the force, it fed just fine. So that is an overview and a basic introduction of this blaster. Now I'll show you some firing. Operating the Flypoint is so much fun. It shoots hard and fast, but honestly I don't even care about the performance. It's just mechanically super fun to play with. The shell ejection feature is so cool. It hurls the shells. It is so dramatic. It's just super fun to play with. The firing performance is actually really good too. My Adventure Force half-length darts fed through this blaster very well. However, the blaster and the shells are actually quite picky with the ammo selection. Apparently there are worker half-length darts that work just fine. I like Adventure Force darts because they're really accurate and these fed just fine. When using Jet Blaster darts, the shells would feed just fine. It would throw them out of the blaster and I didn't have any jams, but the darts would remain in the shells and hurl out of the blaster and nothing would fire. So it is a little bit picky on darts. If you're having a lot of malfunctions with yours, just check your dart fit and what darts you're using. And I had a few hiccups where the slide would go back and it would jam up almost like a stovepipe. I don't know if that's the right word since it's a toy, but the shell would not be ejected correctly. I'd have to open it up, rip that shell out and continue firing. But considering how mechanically complicated this blaster is, I am blown away by the performance and the consistency. Yes, I did have hiccups. Yes, I did have jams, but not that many considering how mechanically complex this system is. I am absolutely blown away by this blaster. It is so much fun to use. But I also broke a few of my shells because they were flinging onto my hard tile floor. I just had some minor chip and this will no longer work. This shell will then cause a jam because it's broken. And I was doing tack reloads, dropping the magazine onto my tile floor, and I did break one of the magazines. If this were injection molded plastic, I don't think that would have happened. I think it's just because it's 3D printed. And up at the top of the magazine, it's very, very thin, easy to dent, and it's kind of weak. Also, after my firing test, I did notice a few of my screws sort of back themselves out. I didn't lose any screws and nothing like fell off of the blaster, but if you buy one, you need to make sure your screws stay tight. Some of these nuts are lock nuts with this little nylon bit that prevents the screw from backing out, but a lot of them are not, and a lot of them loosened up a little bit over time. It's not a huge deal, but if you buy one, you do need to pay attention to your screws to make sure everything stays tight. And to compare this blaster to others, I put it up on my chronograph. With half-length Adventure Force darts, I achieved an average velocity of 92 feet per second, which is considerably faster than the Nerf Elite par of about 70 FPS. It shoots hard, and with these darts, it shoots pretty accurately. So overall, pretty solid performance out of the Flypoint. So that is all of the objective information I can provide on this blaster. Now to my personal opinion. Overall, I am blown away by the Flypoint. This blaster is so much fun to use. The mechanics of it are just absolutely glorious to watch. It just flings shells. It's such a cool blaster to use. And I did experience a few hiccups and malfunctions, but almost all of them were due to either poor dart fit or a bad trigger pull. This is a really heavy trigger. When I use 2 fingers and pull hard and nice and firm, I did not experience that many jams. But it is worth noting because if you just pull the trigger with 1 finger, you might have jams, maybe the occasional stovepipe or the hiccup. It works impressively well and it's an absolute joy to use. Very cool design, very well executed, overall very fun product. Now to the question to buy or not to buy. This is where it gets complicated. If you're a competitive nerfer and you fling foam to defeat people efficiently, this is not the blaster for you. Using these shells is so time consuming. You have to load the darts into the shell, keep track of the shells, load the shells into the magazines, then when you fire, go and collect your shells, go and collect your darts, and repeat the cycle. It takes forever. I've lost a few of my shells under my couch and whatnot, and it flings them far, so you might not find your shells. It's really fun to watch until you have to clean up and you're like, where did all of my shells go? Oh, across the room? Okay. I mean, if you run out of ammo, you could just turn the blaster sideways and just start flinging shells at people, which would be hilarious. Because of that, the logistics of using this in a Nerf war would drive almost everyone absolutely crazy. So I really can't recommend performance-based Nerfers purchase this blaster. Beyond the annoying logistics of using shells, this blaster is relatively fragile. It's 3D printed, a number of my screws back themselves out. I wouldn't feel comfortable using this outside, running it fast and hard. And you guys know me, that's the only way I play this game, fast and hard. And I would not feel comfortable banging this around, keeping it in a holster. It just feels a little bit fragile. It's such a complicated system, and 3D printed parts, in my opinion, just aren't as strong as injection molded stuff. I don't have the same confidence in a product like this. Furthermore, the slide drop and the mag release are just asking to get broken. They are very flimsy pieces protruding from the blaster. It's just a matter of time until I break one of these. And if you slide this into a holster, you're probably going to break your mag release eventually. So if you're trying to efficiently, effectively fling foam, this probably isn't the blaster for you. However, if you're mechanically minded and you just like mechanical things because they're cool and they're fun to play with, definitely consider this blaster. Now, I wouldn't use it in a Nerf war, but I have been running around my house turning corners feeling like John Wick. And it's a joy to use. The slide locks to the rear position so that your tack reload is very similar to using an actual pistol. For those of you who are new to my channel, I'm a gun owner. I own a number of pistols and I shoot regularly. So when I say it's similar to an actual pistol, I mean it, and I know what I'm talking about. But this is the type of product where my purchase recommendation might not come into play. You can see it, and if you want it, you already want it. You don't need my opinion on it. But if you don't understand the appeal of this blaster this far into the video, I honestly just don't think you're going to get it. And that's all right. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, and it's a pretty expensive product. But those who purchase it are definitely going to have fun feeling like John Wick. And come on, who doesn't want to feel like John Wick? The Shellington Flypoint does what it sets out to do. Do you need this in your collection? I don't know, that's for you to decide. But to restate it, this blaster is not intended for everyone. It's for a very specific type of nerfer. But for that specific type of nerfer, they're gonna be very happy with this purchase. It's so much fun to play with. So very unique blaster. I'm very impressed with it. If you're interested in purchasing one, I'll put buy links in the description box below. So that's it for this video review. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.